Well, hello and good day to everyone. Let's see if this comes up. It says it's going. All right, little sound check, and we will be good. 1, 2, 3, sound check. Hello. All right, we're good. Good evening. Welcome. All right. So highly advanced features, brainstorming, which probably should have been the very first thing that was ever in there. But first, just some quick little updates for the new Dramatica narrative platform. So you'll see, I only worked on it for 8 years, but the subtext slash Dramatica, now it's just Dramatica. So Dramatica narrative platform, and Narrova is the thing underneath it that's running everything. It's the narrative OS for cohesive storytelling workflows. And then if you go into the platform, now we have some more insightful ways of moving about the cabin and doing what it is that you want to do in terms of storytelling. If you're brand new, you would do the story guide, and it will walk you step by step through Narova, but setting it in the story guide first. If I did this real fast, should come up here, and then assuming this all looks good for everybody, just make sure that looks great. You'll see it already set the narrative agent to the story guide, which is the walkthrough one, very basic new ideas. And then also some suggestions here at the top, which currently are super random. They have a general sort of sense of what they're about, but the idea is that going forward, it'll start to learn what you're into, what you like to write, and then, of course, help you out in that regards. And then we'll make it, so much better here. But that would be for the story guide. And then Narova will do here. That's where I'll show all the brainstorming stuff. And then subtext currently kicks you out to the subtext app. Very quickly, progress is going towards getting that, so you'll be able to do it right here within the platform. You won't have to go out to the other app. It's way faster. It looks so much nicer and is integrated with Narova and everything so much nicer too. So sooner than later. I thought it would take a lot longer than it is taking, but thanks to the robots, it's going pretty fast. All right. And then the other fun thing, which is more a part of subtext, but it's also in the Storyform builder. If I go in here, and this is the crazy Storyform builder for Dramatica, if you want to know, or if you know the engine really well and you want to just go ahead and pick everything. If you are just coming to it and you're just learning about it and you're not quite sure what everything is, I made it a little more easier to read, but also, so like for instance, maybe you don't know what OS issue is all about. If you do the search button up here and you tap that, it's going to bring up, your basic modern day app command palette where you can just, quickly ask for the OS issue, and then it will come up. You can see that it's the issue of greatest thematic focus within the objective story through line, and you should be able to select it and just get the quick definition of what that is and how that works within your story. So you can do that for the appreciations. And then also, if you're flipping through these different choices, and let's say you don't know what's the difference between conceiving and conceptualizing, and you wanted to do it old school, you could hit that search. And then the other thing is it's the typical Command K. I think that's Alt K on PCs, but Command K, and then that brings that up if you're on a keyboard, and then you can just do like conceptualizing. What is conceptualizing about? And then get a quick idea of the synonyms that are a part of conceptualizing, and then also the definition. Although the definition has some stuff I will clean up, but it will be the definitions for the new platform and everything. And that will be available everywhere. I should have turned it on for Narova. I don't think I did. But it will be available here in the Storyform builder. If I go back to the platform, it's definitely a part of subtext. and then it will be Narova. I'll turn it on this afternoon. So yeah, that's all the new additions that you can see so far. I believe that's it. Yeah. So, basic stuff, just quality of life improvements. So let's do Narova now. All right. So again, these are more expert level suggestions. You know, it says assess the problem solution pairing across this draft. So if you uploaded a draft here, your latest draft of your story, and you wanted to see how the problem and solutions are working out in each through line, you could do that. If you wanted to learn a little bit more about narrative theory and wanted to see, who is the influence character in Rear Window, it's got hundreds and hundreds of different examples. And then also, if you are just coming in and you just want to brainstorm some ideas for certain stuff, then this would be another suggestion that you could pick. And they change all the time. And again, they'll be improved and learning what it is that you're working on. And of course, we'll like suggest specific stuff for the story that you're working on. Like this one's great. Take the uploaded draft and rate each of the 4 through lines for strength. That would be a really, really good one. Okay, so then the subject of today's, which is not, like I said, it's very basic LLM stuff, but it would be nice to have this in Dramatica, is just straight up brainstorming stuff. So it has nothing to do with story forming, story encoding, story weaving, reception, Dramatica theory. This is if you just want to riff on a bunch of different ideas and you just want to be able to like try different things out. And it works exactly like everything else. So that if, brainstorm a couple story ideas about beavers and muskrats going to war over a dam, maybe is the great story idea you have, but you're not sure where to take it. It's just like, oh, it's just an idea. And you don't want to jump into the story guide where you can start going through step by step. And you don't want to do hardcore Dramatica theory and really get into it. So this would be a really nice, easy way to have it spill out a bunch of different ideas. So a charismatic beaver general, a master builder who carves the dam into an earthen citadel, squares off against a muskrat gorilla queen who tunnels beneath the river. Each tactic spawns elaborate sabotage, floodgates, sinkholes, and nightly raids of willow rafts that turn the water into a chessboard of ambushes. Tense Caper, a muskrat mole squad, sneaks into the beaver blueprints vault to steal a missing joint that would redirect the river, but a young apprentice beaver and a curious muskrat page fall into each other's hands and uncover a third-party plot. Human engineers planning a road that would drown them all, turning espionage into reluctant partnership. This is amazing. I actually want to save that because I'm going to make that a story. Yeah, so, basic general ideas. So down here at the bottom, you'll notice, make sure everybody can see that. Yep. You'll notice down here at the bottom now, right next to the clipboard, you have the classic redo, try another pass, regeneration thing, which I know is a part of Chat GPT, but I'm not sure about the other ones. Don't really care about the other ones. So if you come in here and you tap it, then you get this drop down. You can try another pass. So maybe you didn't quite like that and you wanted to try again. You just tap that and it will go ahead and do it again. And it will rifle off a bunch of other different ideas for it. So maybe none of those worked and you want to try something completely different. And now it's going to go ahead and go through the whole thing and give you something else. So the dam that dreamed. The dam is sentient and hates being fought over. It subtly helps the underdog, leaking to ruin overly grand plans and sealing tunnels for those who show mercy. A muskrat healer and a beaver sculptor discover they could speak to the structure through carved lullabies, and together they try to negotiate peace before a spring thaw erases everything. All right, well, that's a little too nice. And yeah, winter games of war with ice locking the landscape. The beavers build towering log bastions and all right. So this is really, really wordy. And Victoria's, saying, it's great to have these options and not just redo. Yeah, these are definitely inspired by chat, although I'm trying to make them more writerly focused, more storytelling. And then, of course, you have these variations. The one thing you'll notice I'm going to do, though, is if I do this, that's not going to flip. So I couldn't get it ready in time for the live stream. It'll be fixed this afternoon. So for those of you in Europe who are asleep, by the time you wake up, it'll all be great. Uh, but what you can do, which does work, is if I go back to Narova here. Oh, and I should also say you'll notice like the whole list of all your conversations are gone. They're not gone, they're just now under this open conversations button. So when you open that up, now you get to see everything here. So you'll see, beaver and muskrats at war over a dam. If I tap that, now this works. So I can flip between the two. So it's just a thing. The robots didn't fix it like they were supposed to overnight. I yelled at them and they still couldn't get it fixed in time for the live stream. But instead of keep canceling the live stream, I'll just show you this and then we can we can make additions to it. Is it possible to ask something like let's brainstorm stories with trust versus test as the main inequity? Totally. So if I came back and I just did a brand new conversation and I said, I'll just do the same thing. Let's brainstorm stories with trust versus test as the main inequity. Inequity. It should absolutely work, but not bring in like a ton of Dramatica stuff, but enough that you get probably what you're looking for. I mean, and this is, I haven't put any genre or anything like that, so it's going to be all over the place. In a coastal town, every relationship, man, that comes up so much. It's ridiculous. Is governed by the ledger, an Oracle app. And what's nice is I'm big on not repeating the same storytelling over and over again. So as we go through and test this, the fact that it always comes up with a ledger or it's something about memories, lost memories, and it's always like the same thing, I will piece by piece get rid of that so that it's actually interesting and different stories. Because I feel like I've seen the ledger a billion times. An Oracle app that issues a daily trust rating and mandates tests to validate it. When the protagonist score inexorably tanked, they must choose between gaming the system to fake a test or trusting a stranger who offers a messy, risky alibi. And so that's great. And it'll do a pretty decent job of generating, but maybe this is like too much information and you want it to be a bit smaller. The nice thing too, you can just say more concise and it'll go ahead and redo the same question, but it should be a lot shorter. Should be more condensed, more concise in the kind of stuff that it comes up with. Yeah, so you'll see it's like single sentences. The city forces citizens to pass daily loyalty tests for essentials, and so it's a really great way, and you can do unlimited amount of these variations and just be able to go through them, and they will branch so that if I continue the conversation, you know, if you find a particular set that you like, you can take that into the next set. And again, this probably isn't gonna work with that flip, but another thing I could do is I can make it super detailed. So maybe I want it to be even more detailed and like really get into the extent of it. So that would be the other option if you're looking for, maybe if you're working on acts or something where you want a ton of detail, or it's a particular part of your story that you really want to dive into. So you have a lot of flexibility between whether or not you want a lot of information in there or you want just basic information. This should take a little bit longer, and each of these should be a lot more detailed in the kind of answer that it brings out. In a walled metropolis, every citizen's daily needs are unlocked only after they pass a morning integrity probe delivered by a city app. Lower scores means shorter hot water windows, poor food rations, and frozen housing credits. A courier who never registered for the system survives by trusting strangers for food and shelter, then finds herself ferrying whispered confessions and banned paper ledgers that measure real human faith and slowly becomes the backbone of a parallel economy where trust, not test scores, buys life. The inequity is raw. Those who game the probes hoard comfort while the untested are criminalized for relying on one another, and the courier must decide whether to blow the system open, trade anonymity for influence, or keep the underground decentralized and fragile. So you can see much more detail. And then, oh, no, still not working. um, yeah, and then you can be able to flip through all the different choices. It's funny, that should probably say one of three, right? Okay. So you have those options, and then let's try what brainstorm is the main equity in exploring. Okay, so this is great. Victoria brought up let's brainstorm stories with trust versus test as the main inequity and exploring school relationships. So another thing you can do, as opposed to like having to copy this and rewriting it, um, if you want to, you can just add notes for that take another pass, that regeneration. So you can just tap this, and then in the notes section, I can say, make it about exploring school relationships, right? And that will just add those notes into it. And then these should be a bunch of test versus trust story ideas. But in regards to school relationships, yeah, you can see generating school program ideas. So yeah, so you'll see, you can just, so what's really great is you can just quickly add some notes, have it redo it, and build that up and make it something different. So high school issues daily integrity passes via an app. Access to labs, lunch lines, and field trips depends on passing microtests. Yeah, it's super cool. I love it too. At a middle school scholarship program, candidates must survive a televised character trial where teachers stage moral dilemmas that pressure them to betray friends for points. One kid refuses every performance and organizes a secret pact of mutual defense. Yeah, and then you can just build up. So you can see here it's got 3 of 3. So if I came back again, I'm just reloading it because robots. So if I come here, I should have 4 different options. So this is the school one, right? And if I go back, we have the really long one. This should be the really short one. And then this should be the really quick one. So it's just a really great way to be able to riff on different ideas and explore the different paths of it. Um, and yeah, it's a very basic addition, but it's super, super helpful. And then if you need to read, what they went through, it goes through that and explains all of that there. And then you can use that in the scope of building out any kind of narrative. If you're in the midst of it, flowing through the development of it, and you you want to brainstorm, you can just, if you ask to brainstorm, it should flip on over. If not, you can always do it manually here and set it. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if I go back to this and I look at my story forms, let's see, latest story form now. Let's do, where is, oh, let's try this. This will be fun. So this is the story form for the movie Thunderbolts. And I would say, let's go start a new conversation. All right, so I'll go start in the story form. Now let's pretend I was working on the movie and we wanted to figure out different alternatives for how the main character through line could have been wrapped up. So in the main character through line, her whole thing is she feels kind of like lost and empty and is not really sure. There's like a hole in, like a black hole inside her soul. The issue being she didn't like take action, when she lured her friend out into the forest. And, it's stuff that's already happened and she can't get over it, all that kind of stuff. So the solution is supposed to be equity. And there's lots of different ways. I've done this before where Narrova came up with the idea that, to be fair, the little girl had just as much agency as Yelena did in that moment. So it wasn't all Yelena's fault. It's also the girl's fault for deciding to go with her friend, which works. I'm not necessarily sure that's a good message, but it, theoretically it works from a or from a narrative standpoint. So another thing you could do is probably, and I actually haven't tried this, but I should be able to say brainstorm five. Oh, I don't know if the storytelling is in here. Let me just do this. So if the MC problem is that, man, I think it's spelled. Is it this spelled? I'll just do it this way. If the MC problem is that Elena has this black hole in her heart because she was so unfair slash wrong to her friend back when they were children. She lured her out into the forest. What would be five different, or brainstorm five different? Actually, I'm in brainstorming, so I'm just going to leave it. What would be five different potential illustrations of her MC solution? What would fulfill her character arc and resolve those issues? And it should, because we're brainstorming all that stuff, that should work. Let's see. But it should be very specifically just brainstorming and not a whole lot of Dramatica terminology. A little bit. Oh, this is public confession and restoration. Elena organizes a ritual in the same forest, publicly names what she did, returns the stolen keepsake, and invites the community to witness and validate the apology. I don't necessarily think that would work in the context of a Marvel movie, but it works in terms of story. The act rebalances the ledger. Jesus, it's the obsession with ledgers, and lets the black hole start filling with shared acknowledgement. I wonder if some of what I have is about ledgers. Let's see, memory sharing. Ugh, let's skip that. Let's see, using her gift of prediction, Elena engineers a ceremony that lets her take on a portion of her friend's trauma memory so the burden is shared. Ooh, all right, that's kind of cool. By relinquishing some of her comfortable foresight to carry another's past, she makes the moral accounts equal in the emptiness in her chest office. That's dope. Sacrifice of advantage. Elena deliberately gives up a privilege that let her avoid responsibility. A reputation, a future she predicted and exploited, and accepts a tangible penalty. All right, losing what benefited her restores equity because she pays a price proportionate to the harm she caused. That would have been awesome. Lifetime restitution through service. Elena becomes guardian mentor to the friend's family or to a community harmed by that childhood betrayal. Yeah, transforming her power into steady care and safety. Slow practical redress converts abstract guilt into concrete, ongoing reparation that heals the past. That's nice. A little indie, probably for the audience. Systematic redress and truth telling. Yelena uses evidence to expose the larger web of injustice that let her one cruel act fester. That works too. It might be a little objective story and probably is more centered in her own sort of film, maybe, if that was part of the objective story plot and her, but definitely great ideas. And again, these are a little bit long. So let's go ahead and try and let's see. Just get to the point. Get really concise. And yeah, 2 weeks ago you built a story called The Ledger, the one in Frank. Yeah. And it's not because it's picking that up. There's just something that I have set up with the agents and stuff that's always leaning towards the ledger, and likely it's used somewhere in the example. So I can always work that stuff out. That's not a terrible thing. But then that's great because then, I can make it more story focused as opposed to always coming up with the same sort of stuff. A lot of the names are used the same when you do brainstorming, so I'm excited to be able to have this portion of it. Again, it's the most obvious thing that you would do first anyways, and probably isn't in every basic writing storytelling app. Uh, that's why I did it last, because, you know, the moat for Dramatica obviously are these four. So then we'll go back and do the easy stuff. Public confession in the forest, return the stolen keepsake, ask for... Interesting. It actually repeated the same exact ones and made them really concise. That's not bad. I actually don't mind that. And maybe I would say, like, so these are, I think, the same exact ones, but almost summarized. I actually kind of love that. But let's do again, but this time completely different ideas. I don't necessarily think these will be concise, but I think they'll be more all over the place. 5 unique options. And maybe the first couple ones have been done a million times. Ooh, living apology. These are the same ones. Oh, that's a little different. She returns to the forest and plants a grove where the betrayal happened, tending to it daily, inviting the friend family to shape it together until the new life visibly balances old harm. It's not terrible. Role reversal. Elena deliberately gives up status and takes a subordinate service-bound role to the friend's community, living under the consequences she once imposed until equity is plainly restored. Okay. These have like hints of it, and that's because, like, I think because the equity thing is pretty prevalent there. Public mirror play. She writes and performs a raw, unsparing reenactment of the childhood event with the town watching, letting community judgment and the friend's perspective shame rewrite the public memory and relieve the private void. I mean, that works. Maybe she takes on the shame of it. So that would be a way within, while you're working on a story, ways that you can, you know, really leverage the story form. Another thing in this story that is not there at all is the main character's unique ability. So if I go, oh, I lost the context. If I bring back, set the context for, where is it? Thunderbolts. Turn the story form on. All right, so now we have the story form back. If I look at the story form for it, her unique ability is prediction. That's not anywhere in the entire narrative. And the unique ability, if you don't know, let's see if, can I do Command K? I cannot. You know, if you don't know what the unique ability is, you can simply ask, you know, you can ask, you know, explain the main character unique ability. But what it is it's what grants the main character the ability to resolve issues in the objective story. So that's one of the ways that it's like tied into the story. It's why they are the main character. There is a thematic connection between prediction, which helps alleviate or resolve the inequities that are there in the objective story, right? So my initial idea was, if she's the kind of person who knows where people would hide, you know, when she's going through all the different things and they're trying to look for that guy, it just kind of happens on him, like, oh, here he is. Lucky me, I walked in the same room, as opposed to if she was able to predict, oh, I know exactly where he is, and you would have something that was set up in the beginning. That would at least make it more. It would tie her more into the actual objective story plot. So what you could do again is just like brainstorm 5 different ideas for the MC unique ability. Yeah, Elena, some agency as to why the OS through line would end in success. It's like what would actually make it a positive thing? How could she make a positive impact on the objective story? And I believe, oh, let me switch it back to brainstorming, and let's go ahead and do that. And again, the Narrova is set up to kind of get the idea of what it is you're going for. So if you don't set the agent, it should do it automatically, but if not. Elena's gift lets her see multiple probable outcomes for any physical event, but crucially, she can choose which single branch to lock in by performing a small deliberate act. But that's super cool. That would have to be something that was set up from the beginning. Elena receives probability reds running through experiments. Every accurate prediction Elena makes manifests as a tiny transferable piece of reality. That's super cool. Empathic futurecraft. Okay, see, this would be more what I was thinking. Elena's prediction isn't of events, but of minds. She can simulate how different communities will understand a physical discovery days, years, or decades ahead. Recursive calibration. Elena can foresee the effects of her own forecasts. Predictions produce second order ripples she can anticipate and tweak. So more of that stuff of like, well, I've been through this situation. I know exactly what people are going to do, where they're going to hide, how they're going to protect themselves, because I've always protected myself that way, and then I'll be able to move into that. And let's try it like super detailed. Let's see what the difference is here. You'll notice too, it's a lot faster just because all it's doing is brainstorming. So you're not necessarily diving into deeper Dramatica theory and all that stuff. Ooh, even called me out by name. Oh, wow. Okay. Each entry includes what the ability actually does, why it grants agency, a step by step example scene, edge case and failure modes, ethical trade offs, and possible narrative hooks. There you go. So, therefore, you are in control of how much detail you want to get into. Elena perceives a branching tree of probable outcomes for any physical process. Why does it give her agency? Instead of passively seeing the future, she chooses which future becomes real. An example of a step by step scene, what that would look like. She slips a single amendment into the grant language and mentally focuses on the B branch until the voting probabilities collapse. Edge cases and failure modes. If she misidentifies the relevant variable, she collapses the wrong branch. Certain locked futures can snap back. I mean, this is amazing. Narratively useful complications. She must learn what to let chaotic possibilities play out versus when to impose order. Her suspicion makes her hesitate to choose. Yeah, that's the critical flaw, which would alleviate and balance out. So, in other words, if she had this prediction ability and she just used it, then the story would be over in the first act. But there's a critical flaw which balances out. And in this case, it has to do with something to do with suspicion. So, doubt raised by evidence kind of uh, weakens her ability to determine future situations. And that's what it's trying to play out here. Her suspicion might make her hesitate to choose, and then it ends horribly, and then she has to learn to like embrace that prediction. So this is one response with tons and tons and tons of information. And if you want, I can now expand one of these into a 6 to 10. So I mean, if you want to keep going, you might love the one and be able to build off of that one. And I believe that's it. I mean, it's really, really helpful in the case of storytelling. I think I covered everything. Yeah. Add notes, try another pass, more concise, more detail. And I'll be really interested to see what people come up with and how they're able to use it. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. Maybe see how that all balances out in the long run. But I believe that's all the changes that I've done. And again, we'll get that picker fix if I come back here. Empowering Elena with main characters. So yeah, if I come back here, I should have 2 of 2, so I can slip back and see the original one. Then I can see the one with more detail and branch off and do whatever I want to with that. But yeah, super excited to get this out to everybody and be able to let you do it. It's all live for everybody now. The suggestions again, those will improve and start listening to what it is you're doing so it can help you kind of proactively work on your story or whatever it is that you're working on. And I believe that is it. Useful brainstorming tool, and it's funny, this one's slow, this one's fast, and nicely implemented. Thank you so much. Yeah, and if you have any suggestions as you're working through it, if there's ideas of how to improve it, make it more storytelling focused, I'm more than happy to listen to that. The docs have been updated, so you'll be able to follow along with that. And I believe that's it for today's live stream. Unless anybody has any sort of questions, Q&A, I think I covered everything. New writers, working writer. Yeah, that is pretty much it. All right. So I will keep it so I'm sure everybody can dive in and start using the brainstorming tool right away. Other than that, I will keep building out subtext. Like I said, that should be happening a lot more quicker than I had realized. We'll get that out to you sooner than later so that all the work that you do in Narrova you can save into little boxes and be able to, work through it in a more traditional standpoint, and then also be able to play them so you can play through your stories. And then I will see everybody next week, same time. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below. Please subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff in the YouTubes. And then I will see everybody next time. Thanks so much. See you later.